The Empire had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Their warships were massive, dark, and terrible. They moved through space like hungry predators, and every species they met had two choices: kneel or die. Most chose to kneel. Fleet Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was tall for his species, with gray skin and 4 eyes that saw everything. Behind him, 50 warships waited in perfect formation. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. Today was supposed to be simple. His patrol had detected 3 small vessels entering space. Unknown design, unknown origin. The ships were tiny, barely larger than cargo haulers. Had seen 1,000 first contacts like this. They always ended the same way, with surrender and tribute. He opened a communication channel. His voice boomed across the void. Unknown vessels. You have entered the territory of the Empire. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction. Waited, usually the response came quickly. Panic, fear, begging. Instead, there was silence. Then a voice came through, calm, almost bored. No. Blinked all 4 of his eyes. He looked at his communication officer, who seemed equally confused. Repeat your message, said. I believe there was an error in translation. There was no error, the voice replied. It belonged to a woman. I said no, we will not power down, we will not be boarded, and we are not afraid of your threats. On the bridge of the human ship Horizon's Edge, Captain leaned back in her chair. She was 42 years old, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. Behind her, her crew worked at their stations with practiced ease. Her tactical officer looked up from his console. He was a big man built like a soldier, but his voice was always soft. They're scanning us, Captain. Let them, said. They won't understand what they see. And she was right. On the flagship, the scan results made no sense. The human ships showed primitive technology, fusion reactors, chemical propulsion, basic hull plating. No shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum drives. Laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. These creatures are mad, he said to his officers. They have nothing. Their ships are toys, and yet they refuse the Empire. He opened the channel again. I will give you one more chance. Surrender now, or I will demonstrate what happens to those who defy us. The response came from a different voice this time, younger, female, and filled with barely controlled laughter. I'm sorry, the voice said between giggles. I'm so sorry, it's just, you really have no idea, do you? This was the chief engineer of the Horizon's Edge. She was 28, brilliant beyond measure, and had absolutely no patience for bullies. Felt something he had not felt in centuries, confusion. These humans were surrounded and facing certain death. Why were they laughing? Destroy the lead vessel, he ordered. Leave the others alive for questioning. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, they have made no hostile moves. Protocol requires. I said destroy them. The plasma beam fired. It was beautiful in its terrible way, a lance of pure energy that could melt through any known material. It crossed the distance in seconds and struck the Horizon's Edge directly. And then something impossible happened. The beam bent. It curved around the human ship like water flowing around a stone. The energy simply went somewhere else. The ship was untouched. Every ship saw it. For a long moment, no one spoke. His voice came through the communication channel, calm and patient, like a teacher explaining something simple to a child. That was a spatial distortion field, he said. We fold space around our hull. Your weapons cannot touch what is not technically there. Would you like to try again? We can wait. His hands trembled, not from fear, did not feel fear, but from something else, something deeper. He was looking at the impossible. How? He whispered. You are primitives, you have no history in our records, you are nothing. Captain opened a visual channel. For the first time, they saw a human face. She had tan skin, dark eyes, and a smile that held no warmth. It was the smile of someone who had already lost everything and found strength in the loss. "Your species discovered faster-than-light travel 10,000 years ago," she said. "And then you stopped. You thought you had reached the top, so you stopped climbing. You have used the same technology for 100 centuries." She paused, letting the words sink in. "We discovered faster-than-light travel 200 years ago, but we did not stop. We never stop. While you were sitting on your throne, we were working, improving, evolving. Your weapons are antiques. Your shields are jokes. Your entire fleet could not scratch the paint on my ship." In the engine room of the smallest human vessel, a young pilot named was running final checks. She was 24, with a round face and bright eyes that made her look even younger, but she had survived the destruction of Earth. She had earned her place here. "Ready when you are, Captain," she called through the intercom. Nodded to herself. "Show them what primitive looks like." The ship vanished. It did not jump to hyperspace. It did not activate stealth systems. One moment it was there, solid and real. The next moment it simply was not. They searched frantically. Their sensors found nothing. Then 3 seconds later, the human ship reappeared. It was now directly behind the flagship, inside their shield perimeter, close enough to touch. His cheerful voice filled the bridge. "We can phase through dimensions," she explained happily. "Your shields only work in this one. If I wanted to, I could fire my weapons right now and destroy your flagship before you could blink. But I won't. Because we are not like you. We do not kill unless we must." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was harder. "But make no mistake. If you force us to fight, we will end you. Not because we want to, but because we learned long ago that mercy means nothing to those who see it as weakness." Fleet Commander stared at his 50 warships, thousands of crew, the pride of the Empire. And 3 tiny human vessels had made them all look like fools. For the first time in his long life, understood what it felt like to be the one who was outmatched, the one who was small, the one who should be afraid. The humans were laughing again. He could hear it through the channel, not cruel laughter, but the laughter of those who had seen so much worse than this. And somehow, that made it even more terrifying. Fleet Commander had lived for 300 years. He had conquered 12 star systems. He had watched civilizations bow before the might of the Empire. He had never, not once, been made to feel small. Until now. The 3 human ships hung in space before him, impossibly calm. Behind him, his 50 warships waited for orders. But what orders could he give? His most powerful weapon had bent around the enemy like they were not even there. His flagship had been infiltrated by a vessel that moved through dimensions like a ghost. "Sir," his weapons officer said carefully, "what are your orders?" Did not answer immediately. He was thinking. He was a proud commander, but he was not stupid. Something was very wrong here. These humans should not exist. They were not in any database. They had no history, no records, no diplomatic presence. They had appeared from nowhere with technology that made science look like children's toys. "Open a channel," he finally said. "I wish to speak with their captain." The flickered and captain's face appeared again. She looked relaxed, like someone enjoying a quiet afternoon. Behind her, could see her crew moving about their duties without any sign of concern. "Commander," said, "have you reconsidered your position?" "I have questions," replied stiffly. "Your technology is beyond anything we have encountered. Your species is unknown to us. I would know who you are and where you come from." Exchanged a look with her tactical officer. Something passed between them, a silent conversation built on years of trust. "Very well," said, "I will tell you who we are, but I warn you, Commander, you will not like what you hear." She pressed a button on her chair, and a holographic image appeared in the space between the ships. It showed a planet, beautiful blue and green, wrapped in white clouds, oceans and continents, cities that sparkled with light. This was Earth said. The place where humanity was born. 7 billion people lived there. They built great things. They dreamed great dreams. They believed they had a future. The image changed. Now it showed the same planet but different. The blue was gone, replaced by angry red and black. The clouds were poison. The cities were ash. 80 years ago, an empire called the Dominion decided that humans were a threat. We had not attacked them. We had not threatened them. But they saw our potential, and they were afraid of what we might become. His voice remained steady, but her eyes were dark with old pain. They came to Earth with a fleet of 10,000 ships. They gave no warning. They made no demands. They simply fired. In 1 hour, our planet was dead. 7 billion people, children, families, dreamers, builders, all of them gone, burned away like they had never existed. The bridge of the flagship was silent. Even, who had seen countless worlds fall, felt something stir in his chest. It might have been guilt. It might have been fear. The survivors were scattered, continued. Those of us on colony ships, on outposts, on distant stations. We were all that remained of humanity. A few million souls floating in the darkness, homeless and broken. The engineer spoke up from her station. Her voice was quiet but hard as steel. We had 2 choices, she said. We could lie down and die, except that we were beaten. Let the hunt down the survivors and finish what they started. She looked directly into her eyes meetings. Or we could become something else, something that could never be heard again, something that would make the galaxy remember our name forever. Stood from his station and walked to stand beside his captain. His broad frame seemed to fill the screen. We chose the second option, he said. We threw away everything that held us back. Fear, caution, the old rules of science that said things were impossible. We decided that if the universe wanted us dead, it would have to work harder. Captain nodded slowly. Every resource we had went into research. Every mind we had went into invention. We did not sleep. We did not rest. We pushed ourselves beyond any limit because we had nothing left to lose. And in 200 years, we achieved what other species could not achieve in 10,000. She gestured at her ship around her. This vessel can phase through dimensions. It can fold space around itself. It can draw energy from the vacuum itself. And these are our old ships, Commander. These are the ones we use for patrol duty. You do not want to see what our warships can do. Found his voice. The Dominion, what happened to them? A cold smile crossed his face. It was the smile of someone who had taken vengeance and found it both satisfying and hollow. They do not exist anymore. You defeated them. We erased them. This came from the weapons specialist. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke, but when he did, people listened. Every ship, every station, every colony, every trace that they had ever existed. It took us 3 years. We were very thorough. The silence that followed was absolute. Understood now. He understood why these humans were not afraid. They had already been through the worst thing that could happen. They had watched their entire world burn. They had lost everything, their home, their families, their innocence. And they had used that pain to become something terrible. We are not conquerors, said, her voice softening slightly. We do not want your empire. We do not want your planets or your tribute. We simply want to be left alone, to rebuild, to remember what we lost, to make sure it never happens again. She leaned forward, and her eyes seemed to bore into his soul. But hear me clearly, Commander. If anyone threatens humanity again, we will respond. Not with diplomacy, not with negotiation. We will respond with everything we have. And you have seen today that what we have is beyond your understanding. Ship flickered back into normal space, taking its position beside the horizon's edge. The young pilot's voice came through the channel, no longer cheerful. The thought they were safe, she said. They had the largest fleet in their region of space. They had conquered dozens of species. They believed no one could touch them. She paused. They were wrong. and their ashes drift between the stars as a reminder to anyone else who might make the same mistake. Looked at his officers. He saw fear in their eyes, real fear, perhaps for the first time in their lives. The Empire had always been the predator. Now they understood what it felt like to meet something higher on the food chain. "What do you want from us?" asked finally. "Nothing," replied. "Go home. Tell your emperor what you saw today. Tell him that humanity asks only for peace, but is prepared for war. Tell him that the galaxy is bigger than he knows and that there are things in it that even the Empire should not disturb." She reached for the button that would end the transmission. "And Commander, thank you for the demonstration today. It has been a while since my crew had any excitement. They were getting bored." The channel closed. Stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by the most powerful fleet in the sector, and felt utterly helpless. The humans had not just beaten him, they had not even tried. They had simply laughed and shown him exactly how small he really was. Fleet Commander made a decision that no commander had made in 5,000 years. He asked for peace. He sent a message to the human ships requesting a meeting, not a surrender, not a negotiation, just a conversation. He needed to understand these creatures who had turned everything he knew upside down. Captain agreed. A small shuttle carried from his flagship to the horizon's edge. As he approached, he studied the human vessel carefully. It looked ordinary from the outside, simple hull plating, basic design, nothing special. But he knew now that appearances meant nothing with these people. The shuttle bay was small and clean. A woman was waiting for him when he stepped out. She was tall and strong, with sharp eyes that watched his every move. This was the ship's security officer. "Commander," she said, her voice was polite but cold. "The captain is waiting for you. Please follow me." As they walked through the corridors, noticed things. The walls were covered with pictures, images of places and people. Blue oceans, green forests, children playing, old men smiling. A planet that no longer existed. He asked. Did not look back. "Earth, we keep the memories alive. It is important to remember what we lost." They reached a conference room. Captain sat at a simple table with on her right and on her left. The room had no decoration except for one thing, a flag on the wall, blue and white, with a symbol that did not recognize. "Please sit," Commander said. "We have much to discuss." Sat across from them. He was taller than any of the humans, and his 4 eyes gave him an imposing appearance. But here, in this small room, he felt like the smaller one. "You want to understand us," said. It was not a question. "Yes, your technology, your history, your nature, none of it makes sense. You appeared from nowhere. You defeated an empire that we had never heard of. You have power that should not exist. I need to know why." Looked at her officers, nodded slightly. "Very well," said. "I will tell you the truth about humanity. But first, tell me, what do your records say about the perfect species, the ideal civilization?" Thought carefully. A strong species is one that achieves stability, one that builds an empire and maintains it, one that reaches a peak and stays there. Change is dangerous. Growth is risky. The greatest civilizations are those that endure unchanged for. Smiled, but there was sadness in it. "That is what everyone believes," she said. "That is why everyone fails." She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. "Humanity is different," she said. "We are broken, Commander. We have always been broken. We fight among ourselves. We destroy what we build. We make terrible mistakes and suffer for them. By any logical measure, we should have killed ourselves off long ago." She turned back to face him. "But we did not, because every time we fall, we get back up. Every time we fail, we learn. Every time someone tells us something is impossible, we find a way to prove them wrong. It is not a choice. It is simply who we are." Spoke up. Before Earth was destroyed, humans had already split the atom, walked on the moon, and mapped the human genome. We did these things not over thousands of years, but in a single century. We went from riding horses to flying through space in the span of one human lifetime. That speed of progress is terrifying to other species, added. They see it as chaotic, dangerous, unpredictable, and they are right. We are all of those things. Frowned. But you said you achieved your current technology in only 200 years after discovering faster-than-light travel. That is impossible. The physics alone would require. We changed the physics, said simply. Stared at her. That is not possible. We thought so too. Then we decided it had to be possible because our survival depended on it. So we made it possible, she shrugged. When you have nothing left to lose, impossible becomes just another problem to solve. Returned to her seat. Commander, your species discovered faster-than-light travel 12,000 years ago. In all that time, what have you improved? Opened his mouth to answer, then stopped. He thought about technology, their ships, their weapons, their shields. They were the same as they had been 10,000 years ago. You see it now, said. You reached a point where you felt safe, where you felt powerful enough. So you stopped pushing, stopped dreaming, stopped growing. You built an empire on old achievements and called it eternal. But humanity never feels safe, said from her position by the door. We have always known that the universe does not care about us, that everything can be taken away in an instant. Earth proved that. 7 billion lives gone in an hour. So we never stop, said. He had been silent until now, standing in the corner watching. We cannot stop. The moment we stop is the moment we die. Not might die, will die. That is our truth. Was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, smaller. The Dominion was powerful. They had ruled their region for 8,000 years. They had thousands of warships, billions of soldiers, technology that crushed every enemy they faced. He looked at, and you destroyed them completely, in 3 years. Yes. How? His eyes met his. There was no pride in her gaze, only a terrible ancient weariness. We became what they feared. They destroyed Earth because they saw what humanity could become. They thought that by killing us early, they could prevent that future from happening. She shook her head. Instead, they guaranteed it. They took everything from us, our home, our families, our innocence. And in return, we became exactly what they were afraid of. A species with nothing to lose and everything to prove. A species that would burn the galaxy down before it ever knelt again. Spoke quietly. We did not enjoy what we did to there was no glory in it, no satisfaction, only necessity. They made it clear that they would hunt us to extinction, so we made sure they could never hunt anyone again. We remember them, said. Not with hate, with sadness. They could have been different. They could have left us alone. But they chose fear over understanding, and fear made them act, and their actions sealed their fate. Stood slowly. His legs felt weak, something that had never happened before. I must return to my fleet, he said. I must report to the Emperor. What will you tell him? Asked. Was silent. Then, for the first time, he spoke honestly. I will tell him that we have met our match, that there is a species in this galaxy that we cannot conquer, cannot threaten, cannot control. I will tell him that the choice, the only choice, is to leave humanity alone. He paused at the door. And I will tell him that despite everything, despite what you have become, you offered me peace when you could have offered me death. That is worth remembering. Nodded. Safe travels, Commander. May your empire choose wisdom over pride. Left the ship and returned to his fleet. As his shuttle crossed the void between the vessels, he looked back at the 3 small human ships. They looked so ordinary, so simple, so harmless. And that, he realized, was the most dangerous thing about them. They had learned to hide their teeth, to smile while holding thunder in their hands. The galaxy would never be the same. The fleet jumped to hyperspace and left human territory behind. Fleet Commander stood alone in his quarters, staring at a holographic map of the galaxy. 3 small dots marked the location where he had met the humans. 3 small dots that had changed everything. His lead scientist requested permission to enter, granted it. Was young for only 150 years old. He had brilliant purple skin and 6 eyes instead of the usual 4, a rare genetic gift that made him one of the finest minds in the Empire. He carried a data tablet that glowed with impossible readings. Commander said, "I have analyzed the sensor data from our encounter. I need to show you what I found." "Tell me." Pulled up a display. It showed the human ships and the readings their sensors had captured. "Their power systems make no sense," said. "They appear to be drawing energy from nothing, from empty space itself. This is called zero-point extraction. We have theoretical papers about it from 2,000 years ago, but every scientist dismissed it as fantasy." "Clearly, it is not fantasy." "No, and that is not all," changed the display. "Their spatial distortion field, the one that bent our plasma beam, it creates a pocket of folded space around the ship. But according to every law of physics we know, this should require more energy than 10 stars produce. They are doing it with a reactor the size of a small building." Closed his eyes. "What are you telling me?" "I am telling you that either our physics is completely wrong, or these humans have discovered something entirely new, something we did not know existed, something that changes what is possible." "Is there more?" Hesitated. "The small ship, the one that disappeared and reappeared behind us. I have run the numbers 40 times. According to our understanding of dimensions and space-time, what that ship did cannot be done. It is like watching someone walk through a solid wall." "Yet they did it." "Yes, Commander, they did it easily, almost casually, as if it were nothing special to them." Turned away from the display. Through the window of his quarters, he could see the swirling colors of hyperspace. "I have served the Empire for 200 years, he said quietly. "I have conquered worlds. I have crushed rebellions. I have always believed that we were the greatest power in the galaxy, that nothing could challenge us." He turned back to, "I was wrong, and that is a very dangerous thing to admit, because if I was wrong about this, what else was I wrong about?" Meanwhile, on the horizon's edge, the crew was having dinner. The ship's small galley smelled of garlic and spices, stood at the cooking station, stirring a large pot with focused attention. He had learned to cook from his grandmother on Earth before the burning. Now, cooking was how he remembered her. "What is it tonight?" asked, sliding into a seat at the table. "Kimchi stew," replied. "Old recipe. I found it in the cultural archives last week." The others gathered around. They were more than a crew. They were family, bound together by survival and loss. "They are gone," reported. "Long-range sensors confirm they jumped to hyperspace, heading back to their territory." "Good," said. She accepted a bowl of stew from and inhaled the steam. "This smells wonderful." "Do you think they will attack us?" asked. She was the youngest of them, still holding onto a small hope that not every encounter had to end in violence. "No," said. "The commander was smart. He understood what he was looking at. He will report to his emperor, and if the emperor is equally smart, they will leave us alone." "And if the emperor is not smart?" asked. Shrugged. "Then we will do what we always do. We will adapt. We will overcome. We will make them regret their choice." Laughed softly. "I almost hope they try something. I have been working on upgrades to our phase drive. I would love to test them." "You are terrible," said, smiling despite herself. "I am an engineer. We get excited about different things." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The stew was good, warm and spicy, with the complex flavors of a lost world. Each bite was a small act of remembrance. Finally raised his cup, "To Earth." The others raised theirs, "To Earth." It was a ritual they performed at every meal. a promise to never forget what they had lost and why they fought. Far away, in the heart of space, Fleet Commander stood before the Imperial Council. The council chamber was vast, built to impress and intimidate. Giant pillars rose toward a ceiling lost in shadow. The 12 high lords of the empire sat on elevated thrones, looking down at like judges examining a criminal. At the center sat Emperor the Eternal, ruler of the empire for 6,000 years. He was ancient beyond measure, his gray skin almost white, his 4 eyes dim but still sharp with intelligence. "You return from patrol," the Emperor said. His voice was soft but carried through the entire chamber. "And you request an immediate audience. This is unusual, Commander. Explain." Had prepared his words carefully. He knew that what he was about to say could end his career or his life. "I have encountered a new species, your eternity. They call themselves human. They are not in our records. They have no history that we know of. But they possess technology that is beyond anything we have ever seen." Murmurs rippled through the council. One of the High Lords leaned forward. "Beyond our technology, impossible. We are the masters of science. No primitive species could." "With respect, High Lord," interrupted, "I watched their ship bend a plasma beam around itself like it was nothing. I watched one of their vessels disappear from normal space and reappear inside my flagship's shield perimeter. I have the sensor data. My chief scientist has analyzed it. What they can do should not be possible, but they did it." The Emperor raised a hand, and silence fell. "Tell me everything, Commander. Leave nothing out." Told them. He described the encounter, the demonstration of power, the meeting aboard the human ship. He repeated what Captain had told him, about Earth, about the Dominion, about what humanity had become. When he finished, the council was silent. Finally, the Emperor spoke. "You say they destroyed the Dominion. I remember they were powerful, aggressive. They refused to join our sphere of influence, so we left them alone. You are saying they no longer exist." "Yes, your eternity. The humans erased them completely, in 3 years." Another High Lord snorted. "This is clearly a trick, a bluff. These humans are trying to scare us with false stories. We should send a proper fleet, 100 ships, 200, and show them what real power looks like." "I respectfully disagree," said. "These humans have nothing to prove. They did not seek us out. They did not threaten us. They simply refused to kneel. And when I attacked them, they did not respond with violence. They responded with pity." "Pity?" "Yes, they looked at our fleet the way we look at primitives with stone weapons. They were not afraid because they had nothing to fear. To them, we were not a threat. We were a curiosity." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. His ancient eyes seemed to look through, seeing something beyond the present moment. "I have ruled this empire for 6,000 years," he said finally. "In that time, I have learned one truth above all others. The greatest danger is not the enemy who threatens you openly. It is the enemy you underestimate." He rose from his throne. "We will not attack the humans. We will not threaten them. We will watch them from afar, learn what we can, and pray to whatever gods may exist that they meant what they said, that they want only peace." One of the High Lords protested. "Your eternity we cannot simply ignore." "We are not ignoring them," the Emperor said sharply. "We are acknowledging a reality that you are too proud to see. There is something out there stronger than us. That has not happened in 10,000 years, and I would rather accept that truth than send our ships to die proving it." He looked at. "You did well, Commander. You chose wisdom over pride. The Empire will remember that." Bowed deeply. As he left the council chamber, he felt something strange. Relief, perhaps, or hope. Maybe, just maybe, this would not end in fire. But deep in his heart, he knew the truth. The galaxy had changed today, and it would never change back. 10 years passed like water flowing through open hands. The story of the 3 human ships spread across the galaxy. It moved through spaceport bars and military academies, through royal courts and rebel hideouts. Each telling added new details, new wonders, new fears. But the core remained the same. A tiny fleet had faced the Empire and laughed in its face. Some called it exaggeration, some called it propaganda, but those who had been there, those who had seen the plasma beam bend and the ship phase through dimensions, they knew the truth, and they were afraid. The Empire kept its distance from human space. So did the other great powers, once word reached them. No one wanted to test whether the stories were true. The cost of being wrong was too high. Humanity used this time well. New colonies rose on distant worlds. New stations orbited strange suns. New ships left the construction yards, each one more advanced than the last. The human remnant, as they called themselves, grew slowly but steadily. Captain retired eventually. Her hair had turned gray and her bones had grown tired. She had spent 40 years fighting, surviving, protecting. Now she wanted peace. She passed command of the Horizon's Edge, who was no longer the bright-eyed young pilot she had once been, had grown into something harder, something wiser. She had earned her captain's chair through years of service and sacrifice. "Take care of her," said, standing in the shuttle bay one last time. "Take care of them all." "I will," promised. "Where will you go?" "New Sol, the colony we built last year. They have gardens there, real gardens with flowers from Earth seeds," smiled softly. "I think I would like to grow something instead of destroying things." Left the ship too. He became an ambassador, traveling between species as a representative of humanity. His calm voice and patient manner opened doors that military power never could. He made friends among the merchant guilds, the independent systems. Not allies, not yet, but something close. "You are not what we expected," a diplomat told him once. "We thought you would be angry, vengeful, dangerous." "We are dangerous," replied. "But danger and anger are not the same thing. We protect ourselves. We protect each other. We do not seek to harm others. There is a difference." "It is a subtle difference." "Perhaps, but it is the difference between a sword on a wall and a sword in your throat." Never stopped working. Her engineering breakthroughs spread through human space like fire through dry grass. Each new invention built on the last, each one pushing the boundaries of what was possible. She barely slept. She barely rested. She had too many ideas and not enough time. "Why do you push yourself so hard?" asked her once. Looked up from her work, her eyes bright with exhaustion and purpose. "Because every day I do not work is a day we fall behind, and falling behind means dying. I know that sounds extreme, but I watched Earth burn. I will do anything, to make sure that never happens again." Opened a restaurant on New Sol Colony. He called it Earth's Kitchen and served dishes from every culture that had existed on the Lost. Korean, Japanese, Italian, Mexican, Ethiopian, Indian, all of it, preserved in the cultural archives and brought back to life. People came from across human space to eat there, not because the food was the best, though it was very good, but because each meal was a connection to something lost. Each bite was a reminder that they had come from somewhere, that they had a history, that they were more than just survivors. "Why cooking?" a young customer asked him once. "You were a weapons specialist, you helped destroy the—" Set down a bowl of soup in front of her. The steam rose gently, carrying the scent of memory. "Because destroying is easy," he said. "Anyone can destroy. It takes no skill, no patience, no love. But creating something, building something that brings joy, that is hard. That is what makes us human." Train the next generation of soldiers. Not conquerors, defenders, protectors. She taught them to fight, yes, but she also taught them when not to fight, when to hold back, when to offer mercy. "Our enemies expect us to be monsters," she told her students. "They expect us to be cruel, relentless, unstoppable. And when we must, we can be all of those things. But that is not who we are. That is what we become when we have no choice. Given any other option, we choose compassion. We choose restraint. We choose to be better than those who hurt us. Why? A young student asked. After everything that was done to us, why should we show mercy? Was quiet for a moment. Then she reached up and touched a pendant around her neck, a small stone from Earth, the only thing she had left of her family. Because if we become like them, they win. Even in death, even in ashes, they win. Our humanity is the one thing they could not take from us. I will die before I let it go. One day, a scholar named requested permission to visit human space. He was the same scientist who had analyzed the sensor data 10 years ago. He had spent a decade thinking about what he had seen. Now he wanted to understand. The request was granted, traveled to New Seoul, and asked to meet with anyone who would speak to him. Agreed. They sat in a garden filled with flowers from Earth. Cherry blossoms drifted on a gentle breeze. Birds, real birds, bred from genetic samples, sang in the trees. It was beautiful, peaceful, ordinary. And it had been built from nothing, on a world that had been empty rock 20 years before. "You want to know our secret?" said. She was 72 years old now, her face lined with age, her eyes still bright. Leaned forward. "Yes, I have spent 10 years studying your technology, your history, your culture. Your progress is remarkable, but it is not just technology. There is something else. Something in how you think, how you adapt. My people had 12,000 years and never achieved what you did in 200. I must understand why." Was silent for a long moment. She watched the cherry blossoms fall, thinking of all the people who would never see them. Her parents, her friends, the billions who had burned. "It is simple," she said finally. "Every other species in this galaxy reached a point where they felt safe, where they thought they had achieved enough, where they could stop pushing and start enjoying what they had built. So they stopped. They became comfortable. They stagnated." She turned to look at, and her eyes held all the fire of a species that had walked through hell. Humanity has never felt safe. We have always known deep in our bones that the universe does not care about us, that survival is not guaranteed, that tomorrow could take everything away. We knew this before Earth burned, and we knew it even more after. So you keep pushing, forever. Forever, we never stop, we never rest. We keep climbing, keep building, keep reaching. Because the moment we stop is the moment we die. That is not a philosophy, it is not a strategy, it is just who we are. Considered this, that sounds exhausting. Laughed. It was a real laugh, warm and human, filled with all the pain and joy of a life fully lived. It is exhausting, it is terrible and wonderful and maddening. Some days I wish we could just stop, just be content, just live. She shook her head. But we cannot, it is not in our nature. And honestly, I would not want it any other way. Why not? Smile softened. Because that drive, that endless, stubborn, impossible drive is why we are still here. It is why your empire stood down. It is why the no longer exist. It is why 3 tiny ships could face 50 warships and laugh. She looked up at the sky, where alien stars burned in unfamiliar patterns. That is the truth about humanity. We are broken and tired, and we carry wounds that will never heal. But we keep going anyway. We keep fighting anyway. We keep hopping anyway. She met his eyes. Because there is nothing in this galaxy more dangerous than a human with nothing left to lose, except a human who has found something worth protecting again. Left New Seoul with more questions than answers. But he understood something he had not understood before. The humans were not a threat to be feared or an enemy to be destroyed. They were something far more interesting. They were survivors, dreamers, builders. And they would never, ever stop. High above the colony, the horizon's edge hung in orbit. Captain stood on the bridge, looking down at the world her people had built. Behind her, a new crew worked at their stations. Young faces, determined eyes, the children of survivors. "Message from New Seoul, Captain," her communication officer reported. Elder sends her regards. She says the cherry blossoms are beautiful this year. Smiled, send her my thanks, and tell her I will visit soon. She turned to where the stars waited. Somewhere out there, other empires schemed and plotted. Other species watched the humans with fear and wonder. The galaxy held dangers they had not yet imagined and challenges they had not yet faced. But that was fine. Humanity had been through worse, and whatever came next, they would face it the same way they faced everything. Together, unbroken, laughing. Because that was what it meant to be human. And the stars would just have to get used to it.